fit the best. Welcome to Lichtenburg, capital of Northwest Province, a town steeped in history and the scene of the final round of the South African National Off-Road Championship, the Quick Fit Spares and Spanners Lichtenburg 400. The event had taken on much more importance than originally anticipated, with a cancellation of the Roof of Africa, which would have decided the titles in many categories due to the instability in Lesotho. For the organizers of the event, this meant a special challenge. Here's clerk of the course, Audrey Roots.
We're in Lichtenburg here for the final round of the National Championship since the Roof of Africa has been cancelled. And it's the first national event in Lichtenburg area. And we're going to run this event, as everybody says, in Western Transvaal, now Western Transvaal. And from Lichtenburg, we're actually going to race up towards Mariku. And we're going to go to the Swartliggens way towards Costa and then back into Lichtenburg. It's about 230 kilometers a loop.
Things were pretty tight on top of the leaderboard in the special vehicle category. And Reineke and Houghton couldn't rest easy in the production vehicle category either. It was even tighter between De Villiers and Van der Merwe in the quads, while Milton, Van Niekerk, Voliter and Farmer were all in with a chance in the 200s. In the 250 motorbike class, any of the top four could still become champion, while Alfie Cox was seemingly on his way to his umpteenth title in the open category. First away were championship leaders Greg Harvey and Boy Stone in their Queen's Motor Spares race go.
We're very tense, obviously, and you know, our strategy is that between myself and Richard Carlin. So you know, we're not really here to race the pack of the pack of the field. So we rather it's a race between myself and Richard Carlin.
We're starting first, so it's pressure's going to be on Greg and I know we just got to go out there and give it our best shot. And just hope the rain doesn't come down too hard and make things awkward for us out there. Just hope the marking's up to a good standard as well.
Production vehicle championship leaders RP Reineke and Robin Houghton knew what they had to do.
We're leading at the moment, but we have to finish this race to win the championships this year.
The last race was a bit disappointing for us. We had some technical problems which really shouldn't have happened, so we've been quite stringent in our preparation. We've rebuilt most of our transmission. So we're pretty confident. The weather, I think, will suit us. If it rains a bit, there's not going to be much dust, so we're quite looking forward to it.
Cliff Barker and Heinrich Lateghan were first-time winners in the previous race. We asked veteran Richard Carolyn what he expected from the course.
We haven't ridden out this way for a long time, so I don't really know. I'm just a bit worried about the marking being a single-seater. The marking never was really good out in the Mafeking, so that's going to be the factor. If the marking's good, then I can go out and race. If we have poor marking, I'm at obviously a distinct disadvantage.
Husband and wife team Tony and Mandy Yeo had made a mark this season, including an overall and class win in July, and knew that they had to put pressure on championship leaders Reineke and Houghton.
Well, I'm a bit nervous about it. We're only a couple of points behind the works manufacturers team of Toyota and Opie. So the big story is we're going to try and stay with Opie and see if we can just stay in there and hopefully, and of course not only that, we've got Andrew Birkin in their Toyota. And the last thing we want to do is have Toyota beat the Land Rover this time.
Well, when I met Tony, 3 weeks later we were at a race. I used to service when he raced with Colin and Frankenberg, and well, carrying fuel and all sorts of things around. After 4 years I said to him, I've had enough, I want to be in the car now, and here we are.
The cars were set off 30 seconds apart, with father and son team Franz Czepek Sr. and Jr. being followed by Nick Harper and Andrew Chalupski in their race go. Barker and Lateghan in their Pennzoil Land Rover, and Neil Woolridge and Paul Vermaak in their Vodacom Pajero. They won the Barberspan 500 this year, but have slumped since then.
It looks like it might be a bit damp, which will obviously suit our car being 4x4 and with a windscreen, so we're really looking forward to it. We've never been here before, we don't know what Lichtenburg's like, but I think it'll be very similar to Barberspan and possibly the old Mafeking race, so we're really looking forward to it.
We work together as a team. I obviously do the route schedule, tell them where to go, what's coming up, any cautions,
And then, of course, just keep them company in the car.
Colin and Derek Frankenberg have only been able to bring their TSW Range Rover to the finish line and in the points 3 times out of 6 so far this season, and were keen to improve on their 9th position in the production vehicle category. They agreed to give us a lift as they negotiated the slippery conditions at the start of the first 200-kilometer loop. And this shows just how easy it is to miscalculate your braking distance. RP Reinecker and Robin Houghton in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser had 3 victories and 2 third placings out of the 6 events behind their names, but couldn't finish the previous race, the Caledon 400. It's early days yet, but the engine sounded just fine. The starting order was determined by seeding the drivers according to their championship positions and results. So Caledon winner Nardus Alberts, this time partnered by Peter Mathieu, were right up there in the top 10, chased by Rod Walk. Maurice Borain in his Mighty Mag had won the Sugarbelt 400 in May and was in the mood to repeat that feat, while the Chepiks in the V-Motors Epson Racing Raceco were also putting the hammer down, trying to get away from Harper and Chalupsky in their Raceco. The Quickfit Spares and Spanners Lichtenburg 400 was the first event of the year for Stanley Illman and Franz Stangl, who were preparing their Raceco for the Roof of Africa but were forced to come to this event instead. Back in car with the Frankenbergs, who were finding it somewhat difficult to keep their TSW Range Rover on course. Cassie Kutsia and Piet Swanepoel had been having a difficult season in the new Castrol Toyota Hilux double cab, only finishing and scoring in the Bell Trans-Tongaland in July. But Woolridge and Vermaak were not having any teething problems with their Vodacom Pajero. Class E leaders Andrew and Chris Birkin in their Toyota Hilux have had a good season, lying 3rd overall in the production vehicle category after 3 class wins and a 3rd. Tony and Mandy Yo in their Sabat Land Rover were suffering from their first of many punctures and elected to carry on, knowing that the terrain would get rougher and saving their spares for later. Colin Frankenberg was up to his usual antics in an effort to stay ahead of the Raconics of Johan Gerber and Kutsia Labiskachny. In off-road racing, the opportunity to pass a car ahead of you doesn't appear very often. While the cars were on their way, tackling the first of the 2 200-kilometer loops, it was time for the quads to start their race. And first on his way was Paris-Dakar hero Vickers van Deventer on his Gulwar Blonde Yamaha.
The weather suits me, that's my place here in the hometown. I hope I will do good, I will give my best. We'll see what will happen at the end of the day.
Joburg Yamaha rider and defending 200cc class champion Christophe van der Merwe was next, with the quads sent off in 15-second intervals. Next up, Mark Reckel of Team Brasco FMF Racing on another Yamaha. Conditions were starting to deteriorate as the rain started coming down. Jan Steenkamp on his Yamaha was determined not to get too wet. Championship leader Cornel de Villiers on his Yamaha had only one thing in mind: beat Van der Merwe. John Craig Costello was on another Yamaha, also riding under the Joburg Yamaha banner. Van Deventer, commonly regarded as the best quad racer in the world after becoming the first to finish the grueling Paris-Dakar rally in January this year, had won 2 races in a row earlier this season, but had missed out on 2 more because of overseas commitments. He was 6th in the championship. Christophe van der Merwe was in a determined mood, not willing to give his title away without a fight, and he was going flat out from the beginning. Louis Boshoff on his Polaris had not had a good season and was in 12th after finishing and scoring in only 2 out of the 6 events so far. Although de Villiers was leading Van der Merwe in the championship, it was so close that the one who beat the other would be crowned champion. The route took the competitors in a northerly direction, crossing the Marico River a number of times, which caused some serious hassles to some of them. Leon van Eden was taking it very easy. While the spectators could relax and enjoy themselves, it was hard work for competitors who needed to concentrate hard not to tip over or get a puncture. To ride these quads effectively, one needs to constantly shift the center of gravity using your body weight and remembering that the golden rule is never to put your foot down in motocross style. Riding a quad is a combination of riding a bike and driving a car. Costello was getting it exactly right. Rodney Bade was going steady on his Yamaha, but there were problems for Corey Smith and his Banshee.
Tell me, why'd you stop? A puncher. Front left wheel puncher. I'm on my way again.
Now it was the turn of the bikes to get on their way. Still raining and also with 15 seconds in between the riders, first in line was 250 championship leader Darryl Curtis on his AGA Panasonic Castrol KTM. He knew that a mistake could cost him his championship.
Starting first, it's always difficult because you have to set the pace, and you can get lost and stuck in mud and things like that. So I've just got to keep my head together and keep a good pace and hope everything goes well.
200 category championship leader Quinton Milton had a very narrow points lead to defend.
Oh, it's a little bit wet out there. Don't enjoy the rain, but I think I can pull it through today. Feeling good, feeling strong. Got a two-point lead on Rion, so I think I can do it.
Carl Leroux is a local boy and was determined to show the lads a thing or two in the open category. That's for bikes larger than 250cc. It's a hotly contested class, behind championship leader Alfie Cox, that is. Another South African hero of this year's Paris-Dakar rally. Cox was leading the title chase by a country mile.
This is the last race now of the year, and everybody's worried about the championship, and today is a big thing for each guy to finish and get his points in the right place.
Second in the championship, Graham McLaughlin had just come off a victory in the Caledon 400, riding his Lesotho Office Equipment Honda, but he would be forced to withdraw early in the race after breaking his handlebars in a fall. The 15 seconds starting gap isn't much to defend, and soon Cox on his Gouloir Blonde KTM was hauling in those in front of him. He had already passed Clayton Enslin on his Elna Fox FMF Racing Kawasaki and Curtis on his AGA Panasonic Castrol KTM. Clayton had also passed Curtis and was going as hard as it could. Errol Dalton on his Connex Shell Racing Team Honda was lying 6th in the championship, despite a victory in both the Barbaspan 500 and the Toyota 1000 Desert Race earlier in the season. Rian van der Kerk on his AGA Panasonic Castrol KTM was also going flat out, knowing that he had to catch and pass Milton as soon as possible.
Watch him there, he's going to pick it up.
Jeffrey Voliter, also on an AGA Panasonic Castrol KTM, was also in the title chase in the 200 class, with only 6 points separating him from Milton and only 3 from van der Kerk. Grant Bloomfield tackled America with gusto on his Connex Shell Racing Honda, as did Quinton Milton, who was pushing as hard as he could to stay ahead of the storming Rian van der Kerk. While the front runners made it all look so easy, some of the back markers were struggling. This is Wayne Van Kuiper on his Kawasaki making his way around Pine Pinar and his fallen Honda, who did get going before the rest of the traffic started arriving. The Blue Circle racetrack just outside Lichtenburg was doubling up as the start-finish point of the 200-kilometer-long circular course, and some 3 hours into the race, the leaders started to arrive at their pits. Reineke and Houghton were first on the road, but not necessarily leading, as they had missed the control point at a public road where the competitors had to slow down. This wasn't a disqualifiable transgression and would be corrected later. Just a routine pit stop and no time lost for the championship leaders. The leader at this stage in the special vehicle category was Marius Borain in his Mighty Mag. He was quite pleased with his performance so far.
It's very rough. Some places you really got to look at sharp rocks, and the last 30-40 k's is a high-speed fourth gear.
Next into the pits were Caledon 400 winner Nardus Alberts and Peter Mattia in their Rapsa race car.
It's kind of rough, and I think the second loop might be kind of slippery, but it's going nicely.
Father and son Franz Czepek Sr. and Jr. also had a quick routine pit stop, the pairing having made their way up the field and lying third in the special vehicle category.
Belts on.
Greg Harvey and Boy Stone had a few problems to contend with, while Illman and Stangl were also in a hurry to get going again. Caledon 400 winners Cliff Barker and Hein Lateghan on their way again with the BMW M3 engine sounding glorious. Neil Woolridge and Paul Vermaak had no problems to report as the pit crew made sure that everything was hunky-dory before they sent them off to do it all over again.
So you must just
11 minutes, 12 minutes on the road.
It's quite good. It's quite fast in places, slow in others, but very slippery too.
Gerard and Vic Kalmfer's family were very happy to see them. The Birkin brothers were leading their class, as has become the norm, the pair having won Class E 3 times already this year. Hein Grobler and Charles Wolmerans were happy with their race, while Tony Yeo could only but smile despite their misfortunes.
3 punches, 60 k's out. I've driven 60 k's on this. This is chaos.
Arpie Reinecker and Robin Houghton were continuing with their relentless charge, still ahead of the pack on the road, but aware of the fact that their time would be corrected at the end. Marius Bahrain in his mighty mag was dealing with a rocky surface without any problems, leading the special vehicle category. Franz Czepek Senior and Junior were lying second in their class and third overall at this point, chasing Illman and Stangl. Richard Carolyn encountered the problem many a single-seater faced, wrong slotting, and was grateful to see Barker and Lateghan, behind whom he could pick up the route again. Things were getting hectic as Woolridge and Vermaak started catching Harvey and Stone, who were steadily dropping down the field as they struggled with various problems. Coming towards the end of the race, and the final 70 kilometers or so were flat-out stuff, which ideally suited Reinecker and Houghton. Andrew and Chris Birkin were still ahead in Class E in their Toyota Hilux Turbo Diesel, 4th among the production vehicles and 10th overall. The Toyota Hilux is a popular vehicle among the off-road fraternity, its rugged reliability making it ideal for the less modified classes in the production vehicle category. Class G championship leaders Hein Grobler and Charles Wolmerans were also in one and doing very well, leading their class and chasing the Birkin brothers for overall position. One of the stalwarts of off-road racing in South Africa is Wolf-Peter Fumfai, a former class champion in his industrial hardware WPP Sturmjager, 7th in the special vehicle category. And back to the pits where the quads had started arriving after completing the first half of the race, led by that man, Wickers van Deventer. First, half a lap of the Blue Circle Raceway before the pit crew can take a look at man and machine. Christo van der Merwe was a frustrated man as he came into the pits, having lost a part of his exhaust pipe early on in the race. This had dropped him down the field and wasn't good news at all for him in his attempt to catch overall championship leader Cornel de Villiers.
Terrein is baie lekker. Ek het net 'n pyp verloor. Dit so die bykant sien as ek te vinnig gaan. En die ouens is op my, jy weet.
Next into the pits was Mark Breckel, who had also dropped down the order in the quad category. We asked him how he felt about the route and about the reason for him losing time.
Just punches. It's very rocky as you get closer to Zeerust. Mountainous, and I think I overdid it there a bit and burst the front wheels of the bike a couple of times before I lost a bit of time.
The faster bikes had moved in between the quads, and with the leaders not experiencing any major problems, they were in and out of the pits in a flash, having just taken aboard some fuel. Elmer Simons was followed in rapid succession by Errol Dalton and Jeffrey Voliter. Evan Pretorius was lying third in the 500 category on his AGA Panasonic Castrol KTM, minutes behind Alfie Cox, but just a few seconds behind Hilton Haywood on a Shimwell's Yamaha. Grant Bloomfield on his Connex Shell Honda was still in the race at this point, but had to withdraw later due to mechanical problems, but no such hard luck was awaiting Pretorius or Carl Leroux. With the bikes completing their pit stops one by one, it was business as usual for local man Wickers van Deventer as he opened up a huge lead in the quad category. Just watch this man fly. Also flying was Alfie Cox, who had taken the overall lead and was dicing here with 250 championship leader Darryl Curtis. Cox was on a 380cc KTM, but Curtis hung on for dear life. Elmer Simons was in a strong position to challenge Curtis for the lead in class, but as far as the championship was concerned, he could only hope for a failure on the part of the points leader. Paul Chomsey on his Natal Protection Services Yamaha was lying second in the quad category, more than half an hour behind Van Deventer. Jeffrey Voliter was second in the 200 class, some 10 minutes behind Rian van der Kerk. Karel Leroux was holding a steady fourth in the 200 class. Christophe van der Merwe wasn't able to solve the problem with his exhaust, but was doing well to hold on to fourth position in the quad category. Quinton Milton was third behind Voliter and van der Kerk in the 200 bike class and was in danger of losing the championship in the final race of the season. Just behind him on the road was local man Karel Swart, riding under the CE Off-Road Cycles banner and doing extremely well by lying third overall among the quads behind Van Deventer and Chomsey. Just another glimpse of a champion in action as Van Deventer flies to the checkered flag. This was the end of the race for the motor vehicles, and it was a highly chuffed Marius Borain who brought his mighty mag to the finish line in first position overall, his second of the season. And Reineke and Houghton brought their Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser to the finish line first, although on corrected time they would be classified third in the production vehicle category. But this was enough for the championship. Borain's family were as elated as he, as were the Reinekes. Another good performance by Franz Czepek Senior and Junior, finishing third overall as well as in the special vehicle category. This result also gave them a third place in the championship standings. Across the line came non-finishers Francois Smith and Nick Klaassen, but second overall went to Stanley Illman and Frans Stangl, along with a victory in Class B of the special vehicle category. After corrected time, the production vehicle victory went to Cliff Barker and Hein Latergan in their Pennzoil Land Rover, their second one in a row. We spoke to the winners after the results became clear.
I had no problems, I didn't get out the car, everything went well. There's some fast sections, rocky sections, and you just had to keep the car on the road. If you put a wheel wrong, you might just take a wheel off. It was lovely.
Well, I think it was one of the nicest races that I've had because obviously the weather was ideal, no dust. And this morning, I think the lead changed places amongst 7 cars probably about 7 or 8 times.
8th overall and 5th in the special vehicle category in their Queen Motorspares Raceco was enough for Greg Harvey and Boy Stone to clinch the championship for 1998, their first national title.
Well, it was very nerve-wracking for us. We lost our caliper towards the end of the first loop, so we had only one back caliper, so we just persevered, and the race again was just between myself and Richard. So, you know, when we saw Richard that had a flat and we passed him, then we just tried to maintain staying ahead of him.
So, champagne time for the champions.
We're very glad to be here today because we win the championships again this year, and it's my 6th South African championships. And I think it's Robin's 4th.
In a row.
Yeah, in a row, four in a row. So that's good for Robin.
Vickers van Deventer on his Gulwar Blond Yamaha over the line first in the quad category, more than 36 minutes ahead.
Ek was so gelukkig, so geseënd met die reën en om so goed te doen vandag. Die hele jaar het my skeef geloop van Dakar af, het niks reg geloop vir my nie. Einde teen laaste het reg gekom. Ek het gedog ek moet nou oppak, ek is te oud om te ry, maar lyk my ek is nog nie te oud om te ry nie.
The battle between 500 championship leader Alfie Cox on the Gulwar Blond KTM and 250 leader Darryl Curtis on the AGA Panasonic Castrol KTM lasted to the line. Second in class for Curtis, enough to take the title. The class victory went to Elmer Simons on his Connex Shell Honda.
Well, today, you know, I had to basically finish to get my points and win the championship, and that's a little bit nerve-wracking as you're going along, and one spoke broke in the back wheel, and then, you know, I just had Graham in my sights. He was about 30 seconds in front, and then he had a big crash, broke the handlebars, And then I thought, well, from there I must just ride my own race.
Paul Chomsey of Natal Protection Services was second in the quads, ending 5th in the championship, while Christopher Namarva of Joburg Yamaha finished 4th behind Karel Swart. So, Bahrain just less than 10 minutes ahead of Ilman and Stangl in the special vehicle category. Barker and Lateghan finished a mere 1 second ahead of Woolridge and Vermaak, with Reineke and Houghton 55 seconds back in 3rd. Alfie Cox was 25 seconds ahead of Simons in the overall motorcycle classification, with Curtis just less than a minute and a half behind in 3rd. Van Deventer walked it in the quad category, with Chomsey and Swart separated by almost 12 minutes. This program was proudly sponsored by Pajero.